Now, what's going on with you today? Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to have a little conversation about why Rihanna, not Rihanna, Rihanna rejected Drake. So first of all, why am I making this video? Well, you might have heard what happened the other day. If you guys don't know what happened, Drake was performing the other day, right? He's on tour. And then the song Work, where Rihanna played during his set. And so right as the song came on, Drake said, "I don't sing this song anymore. You could sing it for me," talking to the crowd.
Yeah, I don't sing this song anymore. You can sing it for me.
Now, a lot of people have been speculating whether or not this was a shot at Rihanna or if it was just him not wanting to perform the song. Personally, I think this was actually a shot, and that's because of their complicated history. So in this video, I want to go over that, and I specifically want to talk about why Rihanna, in the end, decided to reject Drake. Now, Rihanna and Drake's first encounter dates all the way back to 2005, when Riri was shooting the music video to her song, Pon de Replay, and that's when she was first introduced to Drake. Rihanna at the time was 17 years old and Drake was 18 years old. Now, Drake served a purpose with being at this video shoot, and that was what? He was playing background music at the restaurant as people ate their dinner. So Rihanna had no clue who Drake was at the time because he wasn't famous. So this was their first encounter. Now, in May 2009, Drake and Rihanna went on their first date. Shortly after Riri's very public split from Chris Brown in 2009 after the assault, Drake and Rihanna were spotted at a Lucky Strike in New York, which is a restaurant. And according to sources, they were locking lips all night, okay, just making out, having a good time. In November 2009, however, just a few months later after their first date, Rihanna stopped by a radio show to discuss her very public breakup with Chris Brown, and she also addressed the rumors about whether or not she was dating Drake. During this radio show, Rihanna shut down the rumors and revealed that she likes hot and older men, the opposite of Drake, who was of course very young at the time. And she insisted that she and Drake were, however, still friends. As the radio host started to inquire more and more about the potential relationship she had with Drake, Rihanna kept on denying that there was ever a romance between her and Drizzy. Was Rihanna embarrassed of the relationship she had with Drake, or did she simply not want the media to pry? We don't know which answer is right, but the point still stands. She kept on denying that there was ever a relationship between both of them. As a response to Rihanna denying the relationship with Drake, Drake did what he does best, and he put all of his emotions in the music. On a song Fireworks from Thank Me Later, Drake said the following on a second verse: "I'm just such a gentleman, you should give it up for me. Look at how I'm placing all my napkins and my cutlery." And then on this part right here is when he addresses Rihanna, right? He says, "I could tell it wasn't love, I just thought you fuck with me. Who could have predicted Lucky Strike would have you stuck with me?" And Lucky Strike was, of course, the place where they went on their first date. Drake continued on the song and said, "Damn, I kept my wits about me luckily. What happened between us that night, it always seems to trouble me. Now all of a sudden, these gossip rags want to cover me and you making it seem like it happened that way because of me." Now Drake wasn't done yet, however. He continued and he said, "But I was curious and I'll never forget it, baby. What an experience. You could have been the one, but it wasn't that serious. There was smoke in the air before that was me clearing it." And then he continued and said, "That felt good. All in all, I learned a lesson from it though. You never see it coming, you just get to see it go. Yeah, I should have looked up in the sky at first. Now I can see it in her eyes. Fireworks." So this entire verse was about the experience that he just had gone through with Rihanna. Now the interesting thing about this verse right here is when Drake said, "Now all of a sudden these gossip rags want to cover me and you making it seem like it happened that way because of me." And that's interesting because Drake on his specific part right here was kind of insinuating that Rihanna might have told him that she feels like he's using her for clout. Now that wouldn't be such a crazy thing because first of all, Rihanna has always been a bigger artist than Drake up until the point where she stopped dropping music. Even now, arguably, you could say that she's still bigger than him despite the fact that she doesn't release any music, right? So Drake was the little guy in that relationship with Riri because usually Drake doesn't date women who are more famous and successful than him. So Rihanna was an exception. She was not only more famous at the time because Rihanna back then was like a global superstar. She still is, but she was just really big back then is what I'm saying. But she was not only more famous, she also had more status, she had more money, and she was more talented than Drake. And it seems like a lot of those things ended up coming out on this one verse right here. Now, moving on, let's talk about what happened after this, because something really interesting happened after this, and this is when things kind of started to really change for the worse. Because Drake at this point had a thing with Rihanna. He, it appears, expressed a little more affection than she was ready for, which is the very thing that got his ass friend-zoned. They had already gone on their first date. They knew each other intimately, right? So despite the fact that there was like a little distance between them here, and the fact that Rihanna friend-zoned Drake by saying we're just friends and this romance never existed, at the end of the day, they were spotted at that restaurant, and Rihanna at the time was into Drake. But it was what happened after this that kind of ruined everything. On June 2010, Drake did an interview with the New York Times where he admitted that he felt used by Rihanna. Drake stated that he felt like a pawn and that he feels like Rihanna did him the way he's done so many women throughout his life. So let me read this excerpt for you right here from this interview. Drake said the following: "I was a pawn. You know what she was doing to me? She was doing exactly what I've done to so many women throughout my life, which is show them quality time, then disappear." Let me read that again. I'm sorry, I just could not resist. She was doing exactly what I've done to so many women throughout my life, which is show them quality time, then disappear. I was like, wow, this feels terrible. Drake then followed this up by saying, "I'm at one of the greatest places in my life. I'm on top of the world. I'm extremely confident. So it's very rare that anybody, let alone a woman that I like, makes me feel nervous or makes me feel small." Wow, that's crazy. So it looks like Drake was more than intimidated by Rihanna, obviously. Some people might say that it's because of her status or her money or all the other accomplishments that she had back then that Drake just could not compete with. The point still stands, Drake felt small next to Riri. And I'm not sure if Rihanna, or any other woman for that matter, would be very attracted to a man who feels diminished by her presence. So maybe it ain't a surprise why things ended the way they ended. I digress. Now fast forward to sometime later that year on October 25th, 2010, when the second single from Rihanna's Loud album, What's My Name, dropped. The song featured Drake, and Rihanna and Drake were depicting a love story in this song. What's My Name featuring Drake ended up becoming a hit record, and it went on to become Rihanna's third #1 single in 2010. In February 2011, a couple months after the release of What's My Name, as the song was continuing to rise, Rihanna and Drake's connection seemingly grew stronger and stronger. During the 2011 Grammy Awards in February, Rihanna was seen seductively dancing on Drake as she was singing, "Not everybody knows how to work my body, knows how to make me want it, but boy, you stay up on it." They also had another very intimate performance of What's My Name at the NBA All-Star Game halftime show, as Drake and Riri's relationship was seemingly continuing to grow back together. There are a lot of different rumors floating around the media regarding if Drake and Rihanna were a thing. In October 2011, however, Drake made a little confession in this interview where he was talking about his relationship with women, but specifically got into a conversation about his relationship with Riri. Now, Drake was asked the following question: "Has a woman ever hurt you?" Drake said, "I've probably been hurt more than I've hurt someone else. It's a different world with the microscope of the internet," he said. They then asked Drake, "What makes it so hard?" Drake said, "To get women to trust you. When you have a woman in your life and you're telling her, I'm in New York working on my album, and you're actually in New York working on your album, but they're saying you're in the Bahamas with so-and-so, it's hard for her to believe. I've had women lash out based off the fact that they think I'm lying when I'm not." And then this is when the interviewer asked Drake about the Fireworks verse, and this is what they asked. "Fireworks was about being Rihanna's rebound guy, right?" Drake responded saying, "Not necessarily the rebound guy." The interviewer then asked, "Did she hurt you?" And this is what Drake said. "At the time, it hurt, but she didn't mean to. I'll never put that on her. I was hurt because I started to realize what it was. I guess I thought it was more. That was the first girl with any fame that paid me any mind. You spend days reading about this person in the magazines. All of a sudden, you have this #1 song, and you're at some birthday party, and there she is. And you're just some naive kid from Toronto staying in some shitty-ass hotel who got invited to this party on a whim. That's how it happened. So this definitely gives us a lot of insight into how Drake felt in relation to him being with Rihanna, because at this point we know that he was very fond of Riri, who wouldn't be, right? But her presence also made him feel small. And on top of that, here Drake was saying that Rihanna was the first girl with any fame that paid him any mind. So from Drake's perspective, even having Rihanna's attention in the first place made him feel very lucky. And when knowing the history behind when Rihanna was filming her music video in 2005 and Drake was in the cut just literally there to change the music as people were eating dinner, you kind of understand now that Drake already put Rihanna like on this crazy pedestal before he even got together with her. I mean, he himself was even saying it in this interview. You spend days reading about this person in the magazines. So to him, Rihanna was a celebrity before she was a person. Drake, in other words, was infatuated with the idea of Rihanna before he even got the chance to get to know Robin Fenty. On April 2012, Drake released the visuals for a song, Take Care, featuring Rihanna, where they were seen hugging, caressing, and embracing each other throughout the video. This once again served as confirmation that Drake and Rihanna were on good terms. In June 2012 is when things got a little heated, because this is when Chris Brown ended up getting involved. Drake and Chris Brown were out partying at a New York nightclub when their entourages ended up getting into it. Members of Drake's entourage stopped Chris Brown as he was leaving the club. This altercation led to bottles getting thrown in the club, and Chris Brown actually ended up getting hit in the face. While the cause of the fight was never truly confirmed, it is speculated that it occurred due to the fact that both Chris Brown and Drake had a relationship with Rihanna. The rumors that Drake and Riri were dating got killed once again in September 2012 when Rihanna wasn't clapping for Drake after he won the Best Hip Hop Video at the MTV VMAs. Fast forward to September 2013 when Drake paid Ellen DeGeneres a visit, where he was asked about Rihanna, and Drake said, "Yeah, great girl, we had our moment and I'll always support and have love for her."
Yeah, great girl. We had our moment, and you know, I mean, always support and have love for her, and yeah.
A little nervous, okay.
Drake was insinuating that him and Riri weren't a thing anymore. In February 2014, during an interview with Rolling Stone, Drake continued to praise Rihanna. "She's the ultimate fantasy," Drake said in relation to Rihanna. "I mean, think about it, like, man, that would be good. We have fun together, she's cool and shit, but we're just friends. That's my dog for life. I'm not after pussy like I was 3 years ago when I was trying to make up for all the years when no girl would talk to me. But I haven't met somebody that makes everybody else not matter," Drake said. Despite all the constant denies of them having a romantic relationship, Drake and Riri in March 2014 were spotted in London holding hands and getting into a car together. In October 2015, during a cover story for Vanity Fair, as she was talking about her dating history in this interview, Rihanna stated that her last boyfriend was Chris Brown, completely ignoring that there was ever any history between her and Drake. In 2016, Drake and Rihanna decided to work together on 2 different instances. She dropped her hit Whack 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 Whack, which of course featured Drake, and the steaming music video where they were intimately dancing together yet again sparked rumors that they were together. Rihanna, however, on an interview with Ellen DeGeneres, confirmed that she was single at the time.
So is there someone that you want to be with right now?
I'm single right now, and it's not that I'm like, oh, pro-single, yes, I hate men. I just think that I just have so much on my plate that I can't even find the time to entertain a steady relationship or anything serious or even a text. Right now, it's just crazy.
Later that year, Drake dropped his album Views, and Rihanna was featured on the song Too Good. In August 2016, Drake decided to surprise Rihanna with a billboard. This was ahead of the MTV Video Vanguard Award, and Drake decided to surprise Riri with a billboard congratulating her on the award. "Congratulations to Rihanna from Drake and everyone at OVO," the billboard said. It looks like Rihanna appreciated this gesture, and she posted it on Instagram writing, "When he extra." Fast forward to the actual award show, and Drake decided to deliver a heartfelt speech where he was professing his love for Rihanna. Now this speech right here is what changed everything, because after what Drake said, Rihanna decided to speak on their supposed relationship by saying that they didn't even have a friendship, but they were not enemies either. Now, this speech was a complete disaster for a couple reasons. He was supposed to share a very short message introducing Rihanna and then giving her the award, and that should have been the end. However, Drake had another plan, and he decided to spend 3 whole minutes reminiscing on that very first meeting they had in 2005, which was fairly insignificant to Rihanna because back then, you know, she was a superstar, but Drake was the guy serving food at the video shoot.
I was introduced to her as a kid who played background music at the restaurant as people ate their dinner.
That was Riri's first introduction to Drake. So he was telling the story about how he met her, and he was sharing how great of a woman he thought she was. But he did this for what felt like an entire hour, and he decided to make this speech about how he felt about Rihanna, which she actually said made her very uncomfortable. We'll get to that in a second. Instead of having a short little introduction speech, getting to the business, and handing her the award.
She's someone I've been in love with since I was 22 years old.
At the end, you see Drake leaning in for a kiss and opts out to kissing her neck instead because it didn't look like Rihanna wanted that kiss. Now, a lot of people were speculating that Rihanna was very uncomfortable as Drake was giving this speech right here, because you see her in this clip standing there just making a bunch of facial expressions that look a little strange, perhaps maybe because she was uncomfortable, but we could never really know what those facial expressions meant. And so a lot of people decided to believe that she was just nervous in the moment, and that's all there was to it. Now, that was until May 2018, almost 2 years after this speech. Rihanna was doing this interview with Vogue, and this entire speech came up in the conversation. Rihanna winces slightly at the mention of the rapper's name before her eyes glaze over with cool indifference. The article says, at this moment, the interviewer asked her about the moment where Drake was delivering this speech where he was professing his love for her, and this is what Rihanna said. The VMAs is such a fan-focused award show, so having that energy around me and knowing the people who had received the award in the past made it feel like a big deal, Riri said. And then Rihanna followed that up by saying this: waiting through that speech was probably the most uncomfortable part. I don't like too many compliments. I don't like to be put on blast. She was then asked about the current state of her and Drake's relationship, and this is what she said. When I ask about the current state of their friendship, her attitude is sanguine. We don't have a friendship now, but we're not enemies either. It is what it is, Rihanna said. So she obviously did not appreciate the speech, but can you blame her? I mean, Drake did at the end of the day make her stand through a 3-minute speech that had nothing to do with her necessarily, where he was essentially vomiting out his feelings for her. I don't know what you think, but to me, this entire speech just felt so forced. Drake could have literally just said all this privately, but instead he did it on his big stage in front of millions of people. And the purpose? Well, he wanted to mask this as, you know, I'm just praising the artist Rihanna, when really he was professing his love for her, and that's what it was. Seemed something like straight out of a Disney movie if you ask me. Only difference is this public display of affection didn't, unfortunately for Drake, have a happy ending. Now, this is the moment right here where everything changed, and I mean everything, because after this moment right here where Rihanna was stating that the speech Drake gave made her uncomfortable, Drake was never seen praising Riri publicly ever again. And not only that, but it was after this moment right here that Drake went from showing her love to taking shots at Rihanna, and the shots were completely unprovoked because this happened years later. So let's get into that, and it starts with For All the Dogs, Drake's 8th studio album, which was released on October 6th, 2023. On the song Fear of Heights, Drake makes multiple subliminal references to Rihanna. He also makes some subliminal references to her current man, A$AP Rocky. On the first verse of the song, he says, why they make it sound like I'm still hung up on you? That could never be me. Gyal can't run me. Bad Gyal Riri is a nickname that's heavily associated with Rihanna. That's what she calls herself on Instagram, and that's what a lot of people recognize her as well. He continues and says, better him than me. Better it's not me. I'm anti. This is a reference to her project Anti, which dropped in 2016. He continues on the song and says, yeah, and the sex was average with you. Yeah, I'm anti cause I had it with you. Okay, I'm auntie like your daddy's sister. Auntie like a family picture. And I had way badder bitches than you, to be honest. Yeah, that man, he's still with you. He can't leave you. Y'all go on vacation, I bet it's Antigua. And then on the song Virginia Beach, Drake had some more shots aimed at Rihanna. This is what Drake says on the song. He says, "You say I could have treated you better or whatever, but I don't know. I think I did all right." You know what I'm saying? And you know how you get drawing conclusions like you got a Parsons degree or something. I could have treated you better. That's crazy. Now, the Parsons degree line was actually a reference to Riri, because back in 2017, Rihanna was honored by the annual Parsons School of Design benefit in New York with an award. And then on the song Late Night, Drake took some shots at A$AP Rocky and he said, "I am Pretty Flacco, bitch. This get really rocky, what, damn, what." And then most recently, of course, he was refusing to perform the song Work, like we talked about in the beginning. And that's kind of where things end as far as this relationship Drake and Rihanna had. It started off as something that could have potentially turned into more, but there were a couple issues. The biggest one being the fact that it seems like Drake was just way more into Rihanna than she was into him. He was expressing a lot of things publicly that he could have just not expressed. And I think a lot of those things definitely contributed to the downfall of their relationship. Everything from the fact that she made him feel small to the fact that he felt hurt by her actions. Rihanna, in this decade-long, what feels like to be obsession on Drake's end, not a single time claimed Drake publicly, while he, on the other hand, was on countless occasions praising her publicly, talking about how he was in love with her since he was 22 years old. Not a single time on any occasions did she ever speak about Drake in this manner. And the thing about this relationship that they had is that Rihanna never really asked for any of this stuff. Drake did it on his own accord. He was the one who bought that billboard congratulating her. He was the one who delivered that long-ass MTV speech, which she did not ask for, and she even stated that she was uncomfortable when it was going down. So Drake, from the understanding that I have, is he did a lot of this stuff to compensate for the fact that he didn't feel good enough to be with Rihanna. And perhaps Drake thought, if I just do enough things to try to win her affection, she's gonna see how great of a guy I am. Like I said earlier, straight out of a Disney movie. I mean, it couldn't be more cliche. In the end, Rihanna was actually very smart to reject Drake, because look how things ended. He decided to publicly go on a song of his and insinuated how the sex he had with Riri was average. I don't know what you think, but if you ask me, those are not the actions of a man who actually cared about this woman that he claimed he cared about. Some people might say, well, she must have done something to make him feel this way. Well, whatever it is, Rihanna never once spoke about the ins and outs of the relationship she had with Drake. I mean, from everything we know, there's proof that he was the only one who kept on bringing it up time after time. Not only that, but he did also, like we spoke about, have some words for her current man, A$AP Rocky, who she has 2 children with, and she does seem pretty happy with Rocky. So the real question here is, did Drake actually love and respect Rihanna like he claimed? Or did he say all these things just to try to win her over? And then when that didn't work, he didn't have any incentive to keep on praising her, because at this point Rihanna is in a happy relationship with A$AP Rocky, and it's common knowledge that Drake is not gonna get a chance at this point, and I'm sure he knows it himself. So the only way he could get back at her is by talking about her on his records. I think part of the reason why Drake switched up in this way is because for the entirety of his career, Drake played what I believe is the character of a nice guy because it was consistent with his branding. Also, him playing the character of a nice guy greatly benefited him because women have always been a very big percentage of his audience. And Drake had to keep this up in order to keep the women on his team. It wasn't until the situation with Rihanna completely died down that we started seeing a different side of Drake. After he dropped Certified Lover Boy, which was a project for the women, branding wise, he of course ended up dropping Her Loss, which was a more raw and aggressive side of him. And Her Loss accomplished 2 things. Number 1, it added some street credibility to his brand. And the second thing it accomplished, since it was a project for the guys, Drake ended up re-engaging and ended up gaining a lot more male fans to his audience. So Drake has kind of been playing both sides for the last 2 to 3 years. He's, however, unlike the past, heavily leaning into that, savage aura / archetype rather than the nice guy archetype. Because now Drake doesn't really have to pander to the women like he did for the entirety of his career, since now it's not really exclusive to his brand. And that explains why Drake, in relation to women these days, he's projecting this energy of, like a future in comparison to the lover boy. Another unspoken reason why Drake might be doing this is because, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know if you pay attention to content on the internet. There's a lot of content on the internet these days that revolves around hating women, and you find that type of content specifically in the red pill space. And a lot of the people who live and die by that type of content, they also more often than not support artists, male artists in hip hop who kind of lean into the archetype of a Future. This is actually one of the reasons why Future is so popular amongst young men. I'm gonna make a video specifically discussing that soon, but for a lot of young men who consume this women hating content, they're also heavily drawn to these types of rappers, and this is one of the reasons why Drake has stopped not only pandering to women, but he's so comfortable going at women in his records. So I think how Drake is addressing Rihanna in these records that he's making is just a marketing ploy in order to push a new brand that he's trying to lean into. In the end, why Rihanna decided to reject Drake is pretty clear if you ask me. One could say that Robin Fenty dodged a bullet here, because as soon as Drake realized that he couldn't have her anymore because she's together with another man and they look pretty happy together, Drake turned his back on her. I'm sure you're gonna have your own conclusions as to why she decided to reject him in the end. Anyway, if you made it this far, could you do me a favor and like this video? Show me that you appreciate this great conversation. And also, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Any thoughts on this topic though? Why Rihanna rejected Drake? You guys know how their relationship started. You guys know the ins and outs. You guys know the story. Now I want to hear what you have to say. So I'll catch you in the comment section below, but most importantly of all, I'll catch you on the next video. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay blessed, and I'll see you soon again. Peace. I'm out.